Hi, friends. Welcome to Lawyers Infohub. It's always a pleasure to create content on this platform. I'm your host, Mercy. You are welcome. For my returning subscribers, I thank you for always stopping by to check what is new on the channel. And for you stopping by for the first time to view our content, please do consider subscribing because we have wonderful content, plethora of them, that will help you become better, achieve excellence in your practice. If peradventure you're a law student, to become a better law student, well informed, to be that advocate you said to be. So today we're looking at the concept of legitimation. Legitimation. This is under our family law series. Now, when you hear the word legitimation, what comes to your mind? Legitimacy, illegitimacy. Yeah. Legitimation is a process by which a child which was born illegitimate acquires the legitimate status. The process of legitimation may be achieved one by subsequent marriage of the parents of the child, two by acknowledgement by the natural father, that is acknowledgement recognition of the paternity of the child by his natural father. So the process of legitimation may be achieved by subsequent marriage of the parents of the child, either statutorily or customarily, then acknowledgement, which is the recognition by the by the natural father of the child, confirming the paternity. Now, when we talk about legitimation, and we say that is a process by which a child which was born illegitimate acquires legitimate status. Now, there's a lot of an argument that may arise to say issue of illegitimacy have been removed by Section 42 Sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution. Now, we look at the effect of that section. Two schools of thought has emerged on the legal effect of Section 42 Sub 2 of the Constitution on the status of illegitimacy in Nigeria. We have the case of Olulode and Oviosu, and we also have the case of Salubi and Wariako, which has broadened these two schools of thought. One school of thought is of the view that Section 42 Sub 2 did not eliminate the status of illegitimacy that was adopted by William J. in Da Costa and Fashion and others. The support for this view may be found in the fact that using the literary rule of statutory interpretation, the clear and unambiguous words of a statute should be given their ordinary meaning. Uh, the school of thought is of the view that that section did not terminate the status of illegitimacy. If a child is born out of wedlock, it remains an illegitimate child. Another school of thought is of the fact that Section 42 Sub 2 abolished the status of illegitimacy. Now, for uh, the first school of thought, which was the fact that it did not, while the second school of thought is that it did abolish. Now, people have written on this subject and have stated that the effect of that section 42 sub 2 was just to ameliorate the status by removing the disabilities and deprivations attached thereto. That the subsection of that section 42, what it did was that illegitimate persons are now free from any form of what discrimination. That for the purposes of the country we are in and the context, considering the various cultural and traditions that exist, that when a child is born out of wedlock, that's still that illegitimacy status, even though issue of discrimination as propagated from by section 42 sub 2 should not arise, because for the fact that that child is a citizen of Nigeria, it should not be discriminated against. Now, that aside, we are focusing on legitimation today. So, I've stated that legitimation can happen by marriage of those people who gave birth to that child, either statutorily or by customary law. If two people who gave birth to a child decides to marry, that child regains the status of legitimacy because the parents have come together and they have married, either by under the statutory law or customary, irrespective, of irrespective of their previous status. So literally, when the two people come together and marry, it confers of that child the legitimate status. Now, it's also important to know that there is no requirement that the parents of the legitimate person must not be married to some other persons as at the time the child was conceived or born. A person that is legitimated by the subsequent marriage of the parents, they have the same rights and is under the same obligation with respect to maintenance and support. The person is entitled to all rights to claim for damages, compensation, allowance, or benefits which are vested in a legitimate person. It's also important to note that one important consequence of legitimation is to enable the legitimated person, his wife and children, to take as from the date of the legitimation interest in property on intestacy or deposition occurring after that date as if he had been born legitimate. Now, when a person has been legitimized, he participates with other children of those people or the parents in the distribution of property according to seniority. He ranks as if he had been born on the date when he become legitimated. So that date of legitimation is very important for that person. Now, it's also important to note that we have legitimation by acknowledgement, where a child is born and the parents are not married, and the man, the father, acknowledges the fact that I am responsible for the birth of this child, I'm the father of this child, acknowledges the paternity of the child, acknowledges that I am the father, that child, that the fact that the father has not done that acknowledgement, it turns illegitimacy to legitimacy for that child. Now, it's important to know that even in a customary law, you see, sometimes when a man gets a woman pregnant that is not married to that woman, they take in certain cultures, they go to the parents of the child, the wife, or the parents of the lady to say, I'm responsible for this pregnancy. I'm dropping cola, I'm bringing drinks to confirm I'm the father, even though they may not marry. Is done so that that child cannot be named, you know, on behalf of the man. You see that in the rural areas and where culture is so well respected, people do that. They go to the family of the woman to say, we are responsible. Our son is responsible for this child, and we're going to be taking care of this child, provide for this child, take care of the education, clothe this child, feed this child because it's our son. They go and do the necessary requirement presented by the tradition in that place. It is done. And the two father and mother may not live together, but the father takes care, and everybody knows that this man has acknowledged this child when the child was born. So the child be named having the surname of the man. Now, there are acts that constitute acknowledgement. To constitute acknowledgement, the act or conduct of illegitimate child's natural father must be sought as to indicate or acceptance of the child's paternity. So any act the man does must the end point must be that I acknowledge the paternity of the child. I acknowledge that I am the father of the child. Now, for example, during the naming ceremony, where the man is present and names his child, is also an act of acknowledgement. Where the man is there, you know, to provide. Everybody's aware. Family members of the woman is aware that this man has come. He's coming around. He has claimed the paternity of this child. He has claimed he's responsible. Everybody is aware. Family members are aware. Extended family is aware. These are also acts that shows acknowledgement. So legitimation occurs either subsequent marriage of those both parties, customary or statutorily, or by what acknowledgement. Now, so those acts of maintenance in terms of education, taking care of the child, you know, shows acknowledgement, and it will be regarded as very active or very constituent element of acknowledgement. Now, in different cultures, there are ways that a man can show acknowledgement of his child, depending on the culture that is prevalent in that place. So, what happens in the East may be different from what should happen in the West in terms of ways a person can show acknowledgement of paternity or the fatherhood in respect of a child. It's also important to note that in each culture, whatever happens or whatever is the way it should be done, once the person has done that, then the process of legitimation has occurred. It's also important to know that it is the father, the natural father of an illegitimate child, that can acknowledge. The mother has no corresponding right. Even if the mother says the father of this child is Emeka, and Emeka has not acknowledged fatherhood, have not acknowledged the paternity, you cannot say there is an acknowledgement. So the mother has no corresponding right on issue of acknowledgement. So the right to acknowledge an otherwise illegitimate child is personally attached to the natural father and cannot therefore be exercised by a third person on his behalf. If on the father's death a relative or his family acknowledges the paternity of a child, the act will have no legal consequence. So it's important that the father of the child does the acknowledgement himself. Does acknowledgement himself. And this acknowledgement should be at birth. It should be at birth by the natural father. That is where he carries the full effect of acknowledgement under customary law. Now, if the purported father of the child dies before the child's birth, there's a better view to hold that there was no legal acknowledgement. So it's done at the birth of the child by the natural father. Not, it should not be delegated. The acknowledgement should not be what delegated. So when we talk about legitimation, we've defined it. Though different people have their different thoughts on it, but generally we have defined it to mean a process where a child that is born illegitimate acquired the legitimate status. We've looked at the process, how the process of legitimation, which is achieved by subsequent marriage of the parents of that child, either customary or statutorily. We've looked at the issue of what acknowledgement by the what natural father of the child. We've looked at acts that constitutes acknowledgement, the timing of acknowledgement, the fact that the mother has no corresponding right, the fact that the father of the child, the natural father, should be the one to do the acknowledgement is very, very, very important. So, and we also talked about the two views of thought on Section 42, sub 2 of the Constitution, which talks about issue of a right not to be discriminated against, and the concept of illegitimacy. I just hope you've learned something today about legitimation, how it is done, looking at the various cultures and the various ways it is done, especially in the aspect of acknowledgement. What happens in the East may be different from how it is done in the West. So on the issue of legitimation. So friends, if you have any question, please draw them. We'll just try to summarize a concept for you for ease of understanding. When you understand what the concept is about, it helps you, to digest the other hard parts to it. So we have tried to done a peripheral summary of what legitimation is about, the basic concept or what you should know about in legitimation, the process, issue of illegitimacy, issue of what the constitution says, how acknowledgement is done in different parts of culture, who should do it, when it should be done. If you have any questions, please drop it in the comment section and we will attend to it. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please consider subscribing to our channel. Do take and stay blessed.